Good afternoon everybody and welcome to Rhyme of the Times for the week ending 16th of September 2023. Putin meets an old mate and they celebrate while G20 vacillate over whether to be straight, but then think it appropriate to equivocate. Rubiales awaits his fate over a possible court date, while the Bidens have much on their plate to contemplate. Rescue efforts do not abate in Marrakech or Derma, where two dams disintegrate under the weight of water. That demonstrates how rain can decimate and obliterate and leave a city in a desperate state. The state of the UK economy ain't great, although prices inflate at a lower rate than the wage rate. Rubiales pleased much of Spain on Monday by resigning as president of the Spanish FA. Luis' behaviour for 3 weeks has been poor. Since the Women's World Cup he's been a bit of a bore. Most believe he deserved to be forced out the door. But is he a criminal? Many aren't so sure. The sexual assault case for that ill-advised kiss still has a chance of being dismissed, but on Friday a judge told him not to go within 200 metres of Jenny Hermoso, and while he's lost 2 highly paid posts, it's reputational damage that may hurt the most, and his mum's hunger strike landed her in hospital, but sympathy for Rubiales is still little. On Tuesday, North Korea's president took the train, headed north across the border onto Russian terrain. His first foreign trip in 4 years, and it was plain he didn't fancy the idea of an aeroplane. Kim Jong-un and Putin looking for mutual gain, the world's biggest Billy No-Mates at it again. Their partnership appears desperate and seedy. The cube-headed Korean with eyes bright and beady, the Kremlin coward looking weakly and weedy, in need of weaponry and needed pretty speedy. With few friends, both leaders are becoming needy. Do they need each other? Oh yes, indeedy. So in Russia's Far East, the isolated nerds shared their grim world vision and fawning words. And when Putin showed Kim the size of his rockets, those beady eyes nearly came right out their sockets. He seemed to find Vostochny Cosmodrome had a lot of stuff he would like back at home. He gazed in awe like a toddler in a toy shop, appearing to not want the tour to stop. The square-headed guy with sizable paunch these days can't get his own satellites to launch. So he has spare shells available for swapping, for the knowledge that will stop his satellites dropping. North Korea and Russia on each other can depend. Putin and Kim have no choice but to be friends. So they toasted each other at a palatial dinner. Sinner toasting sinner, claiming everyone's a winner. But for their nukes, both countries would be minor and increasingly subservient and dependent on China. And like 2 naughty schoolboys testing authority, their Wizard Wheeze meeting had really riled Z. In New Delhi, in a parallel universe, the G20 nations were trying to do their worst. But their worst was pathetic pussyfooting when they should have been putting the boot in on Putin. A mealy-mouthed statement when it finally came didn't call out Russia for blame by name. Putin and his thugs must have been shaken to the core, not from fear or remorse, but from a hearty guffaw. Of course, Putin and Z weren't even there. Z has some domestics. Putin, no doubt, was scared. 7 straight days of 30 degrees or more for a UK September, a record score. Normal weather service then resumed Monday. Autumn and Christmas are now well on their way. For the first time in 2 years, the rise in prices in the UK lagged behind the rate of wage rises. In a mixed week of news, we learned the next day the economy shrank in July by some way. 0.5% retraction is the worst in 7 months. Rain and strikes in July were the cause of this downward shunt. 12,000 people looked like being thrown on the dole. Hundreds of high streets left with a Wilco-shaped hole. A buyer for the retailer couldn't be found, though B&M and Poundland were sniffing around. Then the Range bought the brand and the website. For some Wilco workers, the future's still bright. All week, discussion and debate had roared after an 11-year-old was chased and clawed. Should the owner or the dog take the flak in the wake of such a vicious attack? Now Rishi says the XL bully will be banned after 2 of them killed a Staffordshire man. In Morocco, search and rescue went on without break in the wake of the Marrakech 6.8 earthquake. Nearly 3,000 was the final death total, a big stat, but the heartache is in the anecdotal. Victims and eyewitnesses with tales to tell of families wiped out as earth turned to hell. And a little further east, more devastation as Storm Daniel caused near annihilation. Derna, a Libyan city, swept into the Med. Now 1/10 of its people are missing or dead. Libya, since Gaddafi, has been a fractured state with rival governments vying to legislate. The dysfunctional government was partly to blame for the apocalyptic outcome of the teeming rain. The storm was bad but turned out even worse because it caused 2 unmaintained dams to burst. Not a great week for US President Joe Biden, with the Republican far right now deciding to try and have the poor old guy impeached for various rules of his office being breached. Then his son Hunter was finally indicted on 3 gun charges, but he will fight it. It seems the outcome of pursuing the Bidens is that political polarization widens and US divisions keep more deeply dividing.